Hello guys, this is Recaps Now here. Today I am going to explain a movie called Kung Fu Girl. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The central character of the movie is Shannon, who is a martial arts student and lives in Hong Kong. Her father is called Danny. He owns a restaurant which he operates in the day, and at night he works as a game developer. Shannon's mother died in a car accident while driving to the airport a few years back. As her father was not willing to drive her to the airport on that fatal day, Shannon still feels her father is responsible for her mother's death. The relationship between the father-daughter duo has deteriorated since then. Shannon is living in her school hostel and rarely goes to her house. She has a rival in her class named Ricardo. Ricardo and his gang would constantly bully her. One day, the gang go to Shannon's father's restaurant and complained about the food quality and that it was not that spicy. Before complaining, they had finished the meal, though they found not up to the mark. The gang refuses to pay off the bill, but Shannon protests and compels them to pay the bill. Ricardo is angry and feels gravely insulted, so he takes out the money and throws it to the ground and leaves. Shannon collects the money from the ground and gives it to her father, who is dressed as a mascot. Besides this, she also asks for forgiveness for Ricardo's rough behavior. The next day, Ricardo has his revenge on Shannon by making her brother fall, causing the food to fall and harming him during school. Shannon's friends ask her to let it go, but she was not going to leave the gang easily. Sharon sits with the bullies and has the food from their plate with great authority and confidence. Ricardo feels scared and leaves the place with his gang of friends. After this, Shannon discovers that Ricardo had damaged her clothes that were inside the dryer. Ricardo and the gang used to ridicule her whenever she did something wrong. This included making her fall and adding frogs inside Shannon's lunchbox. There was a native shopkeeper who organized fighting matches regularly in front of his house. Shannon comes to know that Ricardo had defeated everyone with whom he had fought until now. She grabs the chance and challenges him to a fight in public. Furthermore, she bets that he will have worn skirts if he lost the fight. On the other hand, Ricardo challenges her to chop her hair and wear men's clothes if she lost. That is to say, Ricardo won. The fight begins and continues for some time. But Ricardo was a far better fighter than Shannon. All of a sudden, he catches her absent-minded and hits her in the stomach. The painful blow nearly results in Shannon becoming unconscious. After this, she could hardly stand and is defeated just by a single kick. Ricardo is seen having a laugh and gives her a scissor to cut off her hair according to the bet. Shannon accepts the defeat and cuts off her hair, honoring the bet. The following day, when she goes to school with short hair, she is again made fun of by all. Ricardo calls her a man, fueling her anger even more. When Ricardo continues to call her by name, she unleashes an attack on him in the middle of the class. The situation is such that they had to be separated by the teachers before a fight breaks out. Shannon is then taken to the principal, who calls up her father Danny and informs him of his daughter's mischiefs. Danny apologizes for her daughter's behavior and the trouble it caused the institution. He states that she was aggressive because he had failed to be a good father. He also begs the principal to let her go, this time around. During lunch, when Shannon goes to pick up lunch from the cafe that day, she is blocked by some girls. We find out that these girls had joined Ricardo in annoying Shannon at the campus. Shannon's friend shouts at them all for citing a bully, but they don't care. Shannon did not want to create a scene, so she walks away without having her lunch. She remembers her mother, the reason she got interested in Kung Fu. Contrary to other mothers who would doll up the daughters in princess attires, Shannon's mom trained her daughter from an early age. Shannon's mom believed that Kung Fu needed young girls like Shannon, just like girls like Shannon needed Kung Fu. That very night, Danny rings Shannon and asks her to return home for the weekend, as she had not visited for 3 months. A reluctant Shannon agrees to visit her father for the weekend. After the call ends, Danny calls up an investor to check out his game and test it. He had created a virtual game where the participant has to fight in reality to win. At night, Shannon returns home and Danny tries to talk to her, but she acts rudely. When Danny calls her out for her behavior, she manages a laugh and ignores him. Danny further asks about her hair and she disregards the question and hides the fact that she was being Bulied. When Danny questions her about the change in her behavior after the passing of her mother, she bluntly puts all the blame on him. Danny feels hurt by her words and leaves. After a few moments, Shannon goes to her father's home office and secretly looks around. She sees a strange necklace on the table but does not that much attention to it. She also sees a headset on his workstation and decides to put it on. Just as she puts it on, she is transferred into the virtual world of ancient China. Suddenly, a group of people attacks her, but she defends herself expertly. She observes that her hair had grown long again. Then she sees Ricardo wearing a traditional Chinese dress and is fighting the enemies, who are robbers, trying to rob food from a farmer's house. Shannon is surprised to see Ricardo do something good. After this, Norman, who was the leader of the group, comes and fights Ricardo but is no match for him, and is knocked out easily by Ricardo. After the thugs go away, Ricardo gives the sack of grains that were taken away from the farmers back to them. Sharon follows Ricardo and asks him how he got inside the game. She soon understands that he was taking part in the game with a different name and personality, altogether to that of Ricardo. He also tells her about the robber brother duo of Norman and Tyson. He says that the brothers have trained an army for robbing food and supplies from the poor. As a result, Ricardo was protecting the people of his town with his life at risk. He says that he was sure that as Norman lost, his short-tempered brother Tyson would take his revenge. The scene shifts to somewhere else, in the robbers' camp, and Tyson is extremely angry and sends some of his men to keep an eye on Ricardo, looking for the best time to attack the village. Next, Shannon is shown around the village and is also introduced to the martial arts academy. Here she meets Darryl, who was her bully in the real world, but in the virtual world he is a good guy. She finds that her school's principal is the martial arts instructor. On seeing Shannon, the principal assumes that she was part of the robber group and orders his students to surround her at first. But when he finds that she was a foreigner, he begs a pardon and sends her to her room to rest and relax. Shannon also meets the leader of the village. All of a sudden, Ricardo falls sick and faints. The group of people takes him to the village medic, Miss Aries. Miss Aries was highly trained in martial arts and was a great warrior herself. After this, when Ricardo recovers, Miss Aries and Shannon roam around the village. On their exploration, they encounter an old shed and see a horrible-looking person meditating. Aries explains that this man was her father and he had been confined to the shed for a year now. It is revealed that Aries' father, Bao, was a traveler who helped the people and captured robbers wherever he went. But after Aries' mother died, he lived a lonely and secluded life in the shed. Shannon spends the next few days in the village and learns different martial arts methods and techniques from the village head. She teams up with Ricardo and they practice and learn new tricks from each other. As the number of robberies increased, soon there was a crisis of food in the village that hit them hard. The village head, in a move to minimize the crisis, reduced the number of daily meals from 3 to 2. The workers and the civilians both looked distressed, as they feared that they might soon die of starvation. So, at night, Shannon, Ricardo, Darryl, and Aries go to the robber's house to steal the grains. Darryl uses a tube along with darts to knock out the guards. After this, they break in the storeroom and prepare to pack all the staff. But unfortunately, the alarm goes off and everyone in the house is alerted of their presence. Aries faces up to the enemies and comes in front to protect the other members. Everyone else is left unwillingly without her. Next morning, Shannon requests the village head to safeguard Aries, but he refuses, saying Aries had been caught stealing, which is against their rules and was a crime. After that, she goes to Aries' father, Bao. She reveals everything to him about how her mother died and how she considered that father was responsible for it. Shannon admits that it was her fault, that she blamed her father and her father could not be nicer to her. Shannon is about to give up when Bao comes out of the shed, with a firm determination to save his daughter. The group then attacks the robbers' base and fights the guards before saving Aries. The father and daughter are reunited and they plan to go on a trip just like before. Shannon wants them to wait until the robbers are totally gone, but Bao says he was confident that they were capable enough to stop the robbers. After Tyson discovers that his men were attacked, he gets ready and determines to carry out an invasion of the village along with his remaining soldiers. Knowing something like this would happen, Shannon, Ricardo and Darryl are brainstorming ideas to stop Tyson. Shannon knew that there must be a way to defeat the enemy, as it was only a game after all. Then she remembers the necklace that she saw on her father's table that was exactly the same one as that she saw a soldier wearing. She becomes happy and thanks her father for the hint. Just a few hours later, Tyson and his men attack the village. The village head and his students fight them with all their strength and ability. In the middle of the battle, Shannon saw the necklace and the man wearing it. But she is killed while trying to fight him, and she returns to reality. Shannon does not give up and wears the headphone again, as it turns out that she still had one life left, meaning she could still continue the game from where she left earlier. She is able to beat the soldier this time around and manages to get his necklace. When she opens the locket, she finds a picture of her mother in it. All of Tyson's soldiers disappear in a jiffy because Shannon had finally cracked the clue. When only Tyson is the lone enemy standing, they easily fight him off and overpower him to ensure a win in the battle. After this, we see Shannon and Ricardo walking by the river. She tells him that she was missing her father and asks him to send her home. Ricardo promises that he would always remember her and sends her back to reality. When Shannon finally returns to reality, it has been only a couple of hours, and we see that her father and the potential investor were watching her play all this while. Shannon hugs her father and apologizes to him for her past behavior. The investor is extremely impressed by the game and offers to invest 10 million yuan in it. We learn that next week there would be a national-level Kung Fu championship. Both Shannon and Ricardo are taking part in it in different divisions. They have to win 4 rounds to make the finals. On finals day, Shannon feels disappointed not to see her father attending the event. She still manages to win convincingly against the real-life Aries. Ricardo also wins his next few rounds and makes it to the finals. Shannon faces a boy in the semi-final and wins an intense contest to make the finals. Now, this sets up an excellent finale as 2 rivals are up against each other. The crowd watches with eagerness as they prepare to fight each other. Ricardo strikes first, but Shannon dodges it off. Similarly, Ricardo also dodges Shannon. The first round ends without any of them getting a proper hit. The referee blows the whistle signaling the end of the round, but Ricardo cheats and hits Shannon even after the whistle. He is docked some points, but still he does not back off. In the next round they seem to match each other in skill and strength. Suddenly Shannon kicks Ricardo in the back and makes him fall. A furious Ricardo gets up and hits her on the back of her knee. Shannon is in pain but still gets up for the next round. This time Ricardo again breaks the rules and hits her in the back of the head. Shannon is almost knocked out, but then she sees her father in a crab costume and cheering her on from the audience. She feels motivated and stands up again to fight Ricardo. She remembers a technique that she had learned with the virtual Ricardo and uses it on him. It works perfectly and she knocks him down and wins the competition. In the ending scene, she is back in her school. She sorts things out with Ricardo, who comments that she deserved to win the last match.